Hi everybody. I want to go over project 2 with you and just see what concerns or questions you might have. I will create a new discussion board for this week where you can post questions, and I'll be watching that and try to get feedback to you just immediately for any questions or concerns you might have. And then I also want to remind you, you can always send me a message by clicking on this messages tab up at the top of the course. So project 2, the initial due date for it is Sunday, October 31st. But as with all of the assignments so far, there is an additional week of grace period if you need it. And so try to think toward October 31st as your due date. And then if you need that extra week, then you can use that. But it must be turned in by November 7th. I don't take late work, and so you'll need to have it in by that date, or you need to have communicated with me beforehand, contacting me after the due date and asking for an extension will not work. Okay? So just make sure that you're staying in touch with me if you have anything going on in your life that's keeping you from being able to get things done. So let's look at what has gone on over these last several weeks. This assignment was first given to you in the week of September 27th. And so in that folder, it talks about, gives you the link to the reading assignment, and then a video that gave you an overview, and then a template that walks you through the paper. And so if you have not opened this template, make sure that you do that, download it, and save it. And then you can go ahead and use it and type in it, and then just save it as your own document and turn that in. And then do the same if you need to for project 3. I'll probably create a new template for that, but still the basics of it will be the same. And so I'm going to click and download this and then open that so that you can see it and we can talk about it. So with this this paper, this template, and all a template is a kind of pre-made structure format for you to use. That's all a template is. It has the formatting already in it, and you can just jump in and replace the content with your content. And so this is done in MLA format, Modern Language Association format. And so you can double click up here on this where it says surname, and when you double click up there, you see that it has created this option to have a header, and you will just click over this and type your last name in place of that. Don't get rid of the page number. Type your last name in place of that, and then double click out of that, and that will be saved. And so I'll show you that again with me actually doing that. I'm going to type my last name in. You would type yours. And then when I double click out of that, that is saved. Now it should go ahead and correct it on my second page, and it did. You see that. And then also on my third page. So just clicking in that header, and you have to double click up on it, okay, because it's not really within the body of your paper. You have to double click into that space, and then you can double click out of it to save it. You'll select over this and type your name, select over this and type my name, select over this and put IRW 85 as our course, and then the date that you are doing the paper or turning it in or whatever. You'll select over this and type in your title, whatever it is you want to title your paper, and then you will begin your paper here. You see that there aren't any extra double spaces. It's all just pretty tightly formatted together there. Then I suggest how you will work through each piece of this and what you will need to do in each of those paragraphs. And so I walk you through all of that, giving you some suggestions in each paragraph as to what you will do. Remember that you will end your first paragraph with what's called your thesis statement. And the thesis statement is merely the sentence that contains the idea that you are writing about. You don't want to make an announcement. So you don't want to say something like, in this paper, I'm going to... That's an announcement, and you don't want to do that. Instead, you want to say, social media does such and such, or although there is a lot of good in social media, there are also some very harmful aspects of it. Something like that. And so whatever the point is you want to discuss in your paper is what you will say in that very last sentence. And you're going to be tempted to make one more statement about it, but don't. Avoid that temptation. I read so many papers where students will state their thesis and then have one more sentence where they start explaining what they mean. Don't do that. End your paragraph with the thesis and then use those body paragraphs for the explanation. You don't need that additional sentence after the thesis. You're going to include that information in your body paragraphs, your second or your third or your fourth, wherever you need to discuss that information. So make sure that each of your body paragraphs contains one point that you want to make about whatever your statement was, your thesis statement. So if you're saying that children need to be protected from social media, then in your body paragraphs, you might talk about reasons that children need to be protected. And you might say, one reason that children need to be protected from social media is that, they don't make good decisions, or maybe they trust everyone, or there are stalkers or people who are looking to cause them harm. And you would discuss that, state that at the beginning of a paragraph, and then discuss that, and then move on to the next paragraph and state a new point, and then discuss that. And you can use those counting words, one reason, or one aspect, or one element, or one problem for one paragraph, and then another problem, another issue, another aspect for the next paragraph, and a third one for the next paragraph. So you can use that kind of approach just to keep yourself on track, so you know that each of those paragraphs is dealing with a point, an idea, that backs up, that proves, that supports whatever you said in that last sentence in your opening paragraph. And that's the structure that you want to use for this paper. So I walk on down, and then I give you some information for your in your conclusion, and I give you an example of quoting. So I say that make sure that everything you write is in your own words, and that you haven't copied any exact wording from any of the articles, unless you intend to. And if you intend to use their exact words, then you must make sure you include their name, and you must make sure that you put quotation marks around those words, and you must make sure that you include the page number that quote came from the book. And I have uploaded in this week's folder a handout called Introducing Quotes that shows you exactly how to do that. This is what that looks like. So in that Introducing Quotes handout, you can see examples where there's a sentence here where I use an author's name. This is not one of the 4 articles that you have read, but this is a handout that I put together for another class. March explains, so you would use one of our author's names. He or she explains, and then you would quote them, and then at the end of that quote, after the quotation marks, but before the period at the end of the sentence, you would put parentheses with the numeral, the page number that came from. You see there is no P or PG abbreviation in those parentheses. It's merely the numeral, okay? I also give an example here that if within the article the author quotes someone else or attributes information to someone else or an idea to someone else, gives credit for it, attributes it to someone else, then make sure that you're using both of those names. So in this example, the article is written by someone whose last name is March, and yet March quotes someone whose name is Berry, Wendell Berry. And so Wendell Berry says such and such, and yet I have to give credit to the author of the article in my parentheses. And you see there, it's the last name, and then a space, and then the numeral. That's what goes within the parentheses, and then the period for the end of the sentence goes afterwards. And so a lot of examples here that you can look at and see exactly how that should be done as you work through your paper. So that's just some information that is available for you in as a reminder in the September 27th folder with that template. And then in this week's folder, the week of October 18th, I have provided, apparently I didn't make it available to you, I've provided a link to that Introducing Quotes handout. I'll need to change the settings on that so you can see it. All right, so now within the textbook in Project 2, you have an explanation about social media, and so you may gain some information, just an attitude, an idea about social media and the direction you want to go with it. I looked at the discussion board from last week, and you all did, I guess it was from October 4th maybe. You did a great job talking about social media and some of the values, the good aspects of social media, and then also some of the problematic aspects of social media. And so I think you all have some really good ideas and are ready to begin to address that and write about it. So what you are doing is I've asked you to use at least 2 of the articles from this chapter, from this material. And so you have some explanation there, and walks you through talking about, how to look at these articles and how to begin thinking about them. Ask you to read each article, these readings they're calling them. So to work with these readings, to read the article, to pay attention to this particular information, to read about the author, to learn something about him or her, and then to read the article, to annotate it, to think about what it says, to make sure, kind of test your understanding of it, to outline it, summarize it. There's a step-by-step guidance that you can use there. You can click on information here, material to help you as you annotate the article. And then the second article, the third article, the fourth article. Now, as you refer to these, as you think about these, remember that you will use the author's last name when you talk about him or her. And you can see an example of that. This talks about the author. Callum Borchers is part of the Washington Post's news team that explores politics and media. Borchers has reported, you see, they didn't call him Callum because they're not on a first-name basis with him. They don't know him. So when you refer to the author, use the author's last name. That's what we do when we talk about people that we don't know. We refer to them by their last name. And so with this next one, Taylor has done certain things, okay? So with each of these articles, think about that. Become comfortable with these 4 articles. Think about what they say, what points you might want to use from them, what you agree with or what you disagree with, what numbers they provide, what data you might be able to use, what examples you might be able to use that show that what you're saying, what the point that you're making about social media is correct. Now, you're not trying to argue it in this paper. You're merely writing to inform. But that you still have to use some support for what you're saying. So this page helps you synthesize, in other words, pull together all of these sources and see how you might use them. So you can look at the different issues that they present and jot them down over here in this first column, and then talk about what they say about each of those issues and where you can find the good information, maybe what page they have that information on. Then it walks you through constructing a thesis statement. Children's unsupervised use of the internet can be dangerous in a variety of ways. That's a perfect kind of informative statement. And that's the type of approach that you want. You don't really want to argue, so you're not trying to persuade anyone of anything. You're not using the word should or should not, okay? Because you're not arguing or persuading. You're merely stating this as information for people who might read it. And so this walks you on through the process of writing your paper and incorporating your sources. So that's how this material in the chapter in the textbook will help you through this. You can assess how you've done, you can revise, you can look at all of these different areas, your organization, and how well your paper hangs together, holds together. Is it unified? Does it need additional information? Does it need more development? And you can see these questions that they've asked that will help you answer, help you review your paper and see how well you've done. Revising it then for clarity. Is anything confusing? Is everything correct in it? And then create your works cited list. And I have provided that for you in that template. And so we can look back at that template and you'll see that on the very last page of that, I have the works cited created for you. Now, unless you're using all 4 of those articles, and unless you refer to them within your paper, that Borchers says such and such, according to Rosen, something else, Sengupta says such and such and such, Taylor argues that, or Taylor provides an example of, so unless you have used all 4 of them like that, you will not include all 4 of them on your works cited. So you will need to go through and select the ones you need to delete and get rid of them. You must use at least 2 of these. You may use 3 or all 4 of them, but you must use at least 2 of them. You see that these are in alphabetical order. And so I've created that works cited for you. Now, if you're thinking that you might like to use another source from the library or from the internet, I'm going to advise you against that. And the reason for that is, if you do that, you need to cite it correctly on your Works Cited page. And we haven't really learned how to do that. I have instead provided it for you. I've done the background work and figured out how to create the citation. And so if you use a source that is not from one of these four, then you must do that yourself. And it isn't really the simplest thing in the world to do, because we don't have a lot of information about MLA format and documentation style. So again, I don't recommend it. I recommend that you use just the sources from the book. That's what this assignment challenges you to do. And then as we move on to Project 3, you'll have a new set of articles to read and a new assignment based on those. And so I'm asking you to use the materials, the articles that are provided for you, and draw information from them to create your paper. Okay, I want to show you something else, and I think I've shown you this before, but I want to come back to this. In this link with course resources, you can click on this and open this, and I have some information here for you. So there is information about Thinking Storm, a link specifically for that, where you can click on that, and then a Thinking Storm opens. You would decide what kind of tutoring you want. You can go ahead and send your paper in, submit it for a tutor to give you some feedback on it. You can connect for some, that looks like the drop-in tutoring is just for math, science, and statistics right now. You don't need the drop-in tutoring. The Writing Center tutoring, there you can get some feedback. You can set up an appointment. You can start an online appointment. And so all of those options are available to you just by clicking on the Thinking Storm link. There also is information, if you click on Writing Tutoring, that takes you to the web page, the college web page, and gives you some information about our tutoring. And so you can see the BCTC tutoring schedule. I encourage you to get some feedback from a tutor on your paper rather than just using your own knowledge. It really helps to get outside eyes, a new pair of eyes, looking at your paper and giving you some feedback on it. Also, if you have not yet attended, and I know some of you have, if you've not yet attended a Spotlight instruction session, I encourage you to do that. And I've shown you how to do that in the video. So when you click on this link, they've changed the link and it's a lot better now, a lot easier to do. You need to attend at least 4 sessions to get the full 50 points that I'm giving you for attending these sessions. So when you click on this, it will take you to the website, and then you can see what sessions are currently available. So you would click here to register and then pick out the sessions you want to go to. And so if we look at the ENCIRW series to see what they have, right now there are only 2 options. There will be different options as these pass, and they create new options for you. And so you can click on one of these to see when it's available, when the sessions are available. Looks like there is one today, oddly enough, at 5:30 this evening. And so if that worked for you, then you would go ahead and continue with that and sign up for it. If that does not work for you, then we can look and see if there might be a session on that. There's not another session scheduled on that at this point. So if we click on this next one, the Identifying and Creating Main Ideas, we can see there are 2 sessions. Next week there's one on the 25th, and when you click on that, you can see what time. That's going to be 3 o'clock in the afternoon. The one on the 27th is at 6 o'clock in the evening. And so again, when you click on continue, that lets you register for it. And then when you are ready to attend that session, you'll get an email telling you you've registered, and it will contain the link. But you can also come back here and to this page and click to join the session that you have registered for. So that will just give you some additional teaching on these different issues that they have put together a tutor for. So I hope that just gives you a little more guidance for working on your paper. So what's due this week is not a whole lot. I expect that you are wrapping up your paper and are getting it to the point where you could submit it for submit a rough draft for someone to review it. And I've just suggested there, actually I've got last week's date on that, don't I? So I've had some confusion with my dates apparently. I have put in this folder, I will put in a discussion board for you to ask questions, and I have put in that introducing quotes handout, and I will put this video in there. So all of that will be provided in this. In next week's folder, you'll see that there is an editing tool that you can use to help you revise your paper, edit it, and then the link to turn the paper in. If you don't get it in on time by October 31st, then you have that additional week to get it in by the 7th. But during the week of the 1st, we'll be starting the next assignment. And so if you're lagging a week behind, then you're going to have to work to catch up to make sure that you finish everything by the deadline, because the final work is due by Thursday. The paper is due by Sunday, December 5th, and then you'll have a final exam during finals week, and that is due by Thursday, December 9th, and there is no grace period, no extension on either of those. So make sure that you are catching up as you work on that final assignment. So that's all I have for you today. If you have questions, make sure that you get hold of me. And as I said, I'll put a new discussion board in for you for this week, and you can always send me a message if you need to reach me that way. So best wishes, hang in there, get hold of me as you need me.